I don't even know how much of an intro to do today. Today's guest we've been looking forward to since we scheduled it. Didn't we talk to him before the summer was even over about doing this?
Yeah, I think so. Or I had messaged him right after and decided we wanted to have him on just to pick his brain, talk about some of the stuff he's into with DCI judging, as well as some of the stuff he's doing for his career now.
So obviously everybody already knows from the title of the video or the podcast on Spotify and stuff who it is. But before we let him introduce himself, welcome everyone to the Aged Out Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Fantini, and with me as always is
Evan Worrell.
And make sure you head to LoneStarPercussion.com. Use the discount code AgedOut. Save yourself $10 on any order of $50 or more. Everybody wins there. You know, we're in the thick of marching band season for high school and college. Everyone's probably needs some stuff. They'll take care of you over there. Check out the YouTube channel if you're listening on podcast services and vice versa. We have all kinds of reaction videos and a few like cool things coming down the pipeline and everything that we'll be talking about here in the near future. But post social media, Facebook, Instagram, never miss an update. And all right, I'm going to shut up now. Evan, I'll let you take it and we'll just get this thing going.
Yeah, so joining us tonight are you in Washington? Is that where you're at right now? Or are you in Virginia?
I'm in Woodbridge, Virginia.
Woodbridge, Virginia is Mr. Jeff Brooks. Thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. Yeah, like you've probably heard on my Judge Tape intros, my name is Jeff Brooks. I'm from Woodbridge, Virginia. I'm a member of the U.S. Army Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. And I'm also an adjudicator for Drum Corps International. So really excited to be here. I really love the content you guys are putting out and excited.
Yeah, man, appreciate it. So obviously he just threw out his current gigs, which are super awesome. Excited to talk about both of those. But before we hammer into that, give us just a brief intro from kind of how you got into the activity. I know your parents were heavily involved and a big influence on your life. Take it away.
Yeah, so I was really lucky to have parents and grandparents that were very involved. My grandma was actually like a first generation drum corps fan. We're talking back in the like World War II era, right? So
oh dang,
people get back from the war, they're hanging out at the VFW and the American Legion, and that's really when kind of the drum corps activity was booming, you know. And for them, it was something that they would go to. They were always huge fans. And then when my dad came around in the mid-1950s, they naturally kind of got him involved. And so he was marched a very long time. He marched in some like junior corps. And then he marched a lot of years with Miller's Blackhawks. And that's Miller of FJM, as in Fred J. Miller.
Oh, wow, that's sick.
So, and my grandma was actually one of their very first employees, maybe their very first employee, way back a long time ago. And so Fred was a baton twirler. My mom was a baton twirler. She was taking lessons from Fred, and my dad was the center snare of Fred's drum corps. So naturally, they got together and got married, and here I am all these years later. So I was very lucky to grow up around people who really appreciated the activity. And then they both started judging color guard in 1980. So
that's awesome.
I was born in the mid 80s, and so as a young kid, like I have a memory of seeing probably my first drum corps memory. I saw the Blue Devils behind Centerville High School, and this would have been probably 87 or 88. They still had the ruffled shirts.
Dude,
and I have this memory
yes.
of, like holding my dad's hand. It was like above my head because I was only a toddler. But I'll never forget that moment of seeing them. And then I remember going to a drum corps show like in Fort Wayne, Indiana in the late 80s. And my favorite corps was Seattle Cascades. They had a giant like Chinese dragon in their show. So if anybody out there knows what year that is, that's the year I was at that show. But I fell asleep for like the last three corps. So
late 80s, man, Scouts heydays and stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
all kinds of just fantastic shows, programs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I remember seeing Star of Indiana when they'd come to Centerville every year. So yeah, lots of great memories being around that. And I was really fortunate to go to a great, high school program at Centerville High School. Tim Fairbanks was my drumline instructor. And so met him when he was just a young man. He was in his early 20s, and I was just 12 or 13, and so I was, just was really fortunate to be a part of those programs, and then have the support of my parents all those years. So,
and then you ended up marching several different ensembles. Obviously, you named Centerville, Glassman, Crossman, Scouts, Bluecoats, Rhythm X, a handful of years through all those. What year did you start at Glassman? Was that 04?
So 03 was my first summer. Chris Heston was the caption head. Colin had just been there in 01 and 02, and then Lee Bettis was there before that. So, and I, being a kid from Ohio, I was watching all those late 90s Glassman lines, and then when Colin was there, I still think to this day those are some of Colin's best lines. Like, his writing was just exceptional, so musical.
Yes. Yeah,
I can agree with that for sure.
I was a huge fan. Yeah, and a bunch of guys I had gone to high school with ended up in some of those lines, and actually my snare tech when I was at Centerville was Kevin DeMackey, who was Glassman's longtime center snare. So I kind of had that connection. So they're close by, so it made a lot of sense for me. So I went to Glassman in 03. We missed finals that first year. Still learned a lot. I mean, I was only 17 when I auditioned. I was splitting center that first summer, and at the time, I thought it was just because I was a badass. I was like, oh, yeah. Turns out that probably should have been a warning sign. If you're 17 and you're splitting and you're trying to be a top 6 drum corps or whatever, maybe things are not going as well as we'd like.
The mass exodus.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, learned a lot. Ended up going to Crossman. Had a great time there. It's where I first met Lee Bettis and his team of some really great people. Rudy Garcia was on staff there.
Yeah.
He's currently kind of Blue Devils sergeant major. He's in there in the trenches with those Blue Devils members every day. So
we got Rudy in the pipeline to talk to.
Nice. Yeah.
I texted him the other day.
Yep.
Yeah. So. Funny. When I started judging for DCI, I'll never forget the look on Rudy's face, because he said that they were all looking at the judge lineup and they're like, who the hell is this Brooks guy? Who is this? And then they got out in the field and Rudy saw me and was just like, holy crap. Wait, it's Brooks. I know him. I know Brooks, So that's one of those kind of moments that'll always stick with me.
And then you were in the Scouts 0506 line when Colin was there.
And I got to tell you, I absolutely loved
phenomenal
my time at Madison. The 05 year in particular.
Was that the Carmen show?
Yeah, really special. That's
also a sick uniform.
Yes, yeah. The white pants, and we had these beads over our shoulders. Just a lot of really cool accoutrements, to the uniform.
And the
two-tone
a lot of really
green. Nice touches. Yeah.
Just rocking the cowbell. No scoops, by the way.
No scoops. The cowbell.
Fun fact.
We might have experimented with scoops, actually. I don't remember. I seem to remember having a scoop from that year, but
probably the inception of the Nutchida. I feel like.
Yeah, we played a lot of Nutchidas, and a lot of 3s and 4s, just not nearly as fast as Boston was playing them this year. But we did play a lot of them. So
Colin's been on the 4s for a long time then.
Oh yeah,
I don't know my history, so
pushing that train. He just pushes it faster. They're playing them twice as fast as we did. So,
and aged out of Bluecoats in 07, phenomenal line, great show. How many years did you march X?
I marched 4, so I marched 5, 6, 7, 8. 04 was kind of I kind of took a year off from indoor. I could have marched in 04, and. Part of me wishes I could go back in time and audition, because I probably could have been in that 04 line. And that was Rhythm X's first world-class medal. So that was I was kind of their number one fan all year. I knew a bunch of the people in the line, and was still coming to all the shows. I just wasn't marching. I think we all probably have gotten to a point at some time where you're like, I need just a little break. Yeah, I was starting college and had a lot going on. And just as any 19 or 20-year-old does, I thought I had a lot going on and did March, but yeah. So I was at X in 5, 6, 7, 8.
Nice, went out on top.
Yep.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, that was absolutely one of the highlight moments for my marching career. Probably the highlight moment for me was finals night in 2008, just because I felt like I had been a kind of a big part of the building process at Rhythm X, to have gone in, and we finished second in '05. So my first year,
The audio visual show?
Yeah, that was '04. So '05 was Wired. And we won prelims. So we went on last finals night. But unfortunately, that kind of worked against us, because at the time, all the members would go watch the shows, right? All the Scholastic World groups would go watch the World Class. But because we went on last, they made all the kids exit the stands to go line up for retreat. So RCC had this like major hype train going for their second to last performance of the night. And they had this dance feature, which at the time was like really fresh. No one had really done anything like that. I still, to this day, that one stings, because I think we had a pretty flawless run. If you go back and listen to that snare break in '05, that's some of the cleanest stuff I've ever played.
Pretty killer.
I'm proud of that stuff. And then, so to be a part of that process and be so close my first year, and then we were second in '06. It was like so close. And then '07, we went to Europe and had a lot of fun. I'll just say that we had a really great time. We ended up 6th competitively, which is still nothing to sneeze at, but not what I wanted. And so my age out year, we really kind of got down to business.
Tighten the screws.
Yeah, and everything just kind of came together, and it was just a really, truly a magical moment for me, and just kind of the culmination. You know, you think about all the times, you know, you were close, or that, you know, all the hard work that went into all those drum corps summers. That, you know, the best competitive finish we ever had was when I was at Madison. We were 6th. You know, Bluecoats, we were 7th when I was there. Although we did have some milestones that summer. We beat Blue Devils and Cavaliers at my home show at Centerville. It was the first time Bluecoats had ever beaten either of those corps. And
Nice.
It happened at Centerville, which was kind of special to be a part of that. But you think about, you know, all those kind of competitive finishes where maybe it wasn't what you wanted, to have all of that kind of come together for my very last, you know, competitive marching experience was, it's still, like, to this day, it gives me goosebumps, you know.
That's pretty sick.
I can imagine going out. I can't imagine going out with a win, because I obviously never won anything the years I marched. But, like, Josh Brickey talks very highly of that '08 group. He calls the snare line a bunch of junkyard dogs. You all just worked your butts off all season and just put your nose to the grindstone, and it paid off. I mean,
yeah, great show. An all-time Rhythm X, great show. An all-time WGI, just great show. Very innovative and just super clean. So then you obviously did, you aged out, and you had put in, you mentioned briefly, talking about college, had gotten some degrees, Eastern Michigan, Wright State, did the music education thing. I guess that'll segue us into your education and your experience, kind of all culminated into now you're judging for DCI in the circuit. Did you start out judging for DCI? Did you start out in some local circuits? Like, how did you get injected into that?
Well, the thing about judging for DCI is that they do not train judges. So really, to even be considered to become a DCI judge, you have to be experienced already. They're not like training people from the ground up. So I had taught a couple of years of drum corps. I was at Crown, as you know, Evan. That's where I met you. Mm-hmm. I was on staff there, and then was involved with the Madison Scouts for a number of years, and so had been teaching and had been involved. And you know, I always sort of knew that I wanted to become a judge at some point, but I never knew, you know, like, well, when's the right time? How do I start? I went to a training day for MIPA. I was still living in Ohio, and I went to, like, MIPA, which is the Mideast Performance Association. It's basically the home circuit there, like in the Dayton area. And so Chris Heston was hosting this open judges seminar. So, like, anyone that was interested in becoming a judge could go. So I went. And I already was pretty familiar with the system and how it worked, and had studied that, and I knew what the sheets looked like, and I, had obviously discussed judging sort of extensively with my parents, who were active, color guard adjudicators, and so I already had some concept of how it all kind of works. But I learned a lot, and I trial judged that entire season. This would have been, I think, 2012. So I was trial judging. I studied with a lot of really phenomenal judges. Tom Rarick was kind of my mentor. He was kind of like my assigned mentor. So I would go to shows, and he and I would, judge these shows together, essentially. Now, none of my numbers counted, and none of my commentary, the groups wouldn't get my commentary, but I could listen to his commentary and listen to mine and compare numbers, and we would talk about, well, what was your read on this, and what was your, how did you perceive that?
Spreads, this and that.
Yeah, all of that. Your numbers management, and so you're practicing, and a lot of that with the training is sort of whatever you put into it. There's no one. It's like going to college or something, right? Like no one's forcing you to go to class,
right?
And so
you get out of it what you want to.
Yeah, and so I always really kind of took it seriously, because I knew how much it means to the members to have quality people judging, and I long term, it's something that had always been on my sort of bucket list of things I wanted to do. Even when I was marching drum corps, I mean, I sort of, even back then, I remember thinking like, I think I'm going to do that someday. And so I've always, looking at the activity sort of through that lens, that this entire time. So anyway, I started judging and did a bunch of years of indoor judging, judging marching band, really, you're starting out doing, local indoor drumline shows, local marching band shows. And then, you just start getting connected with people, and you start, people that you knew are going to connect you to people that you should know if you don't already. And actually,
baby.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it certainly has helped me. I sometimes think about it almost like if you watch motorsports, like I'm a huge IndyCar fan, and
okay.
There's a young driver.
Yeah, I like IndyCar some because my friend is super into it, but I've gotten a Formula One bug because of Netflix.
Now, I understand, and listen, I love Formula One.
Roman Grosjean had switched over to
the racing. The racing in IndyCar is way better because they're all basically riding they're all using the same setup. It's not an engineering race; it's just a race.
It's a driver race.
So, it's a driver race. So I love that. I also really enjoy Formula One. But so Colton Herta is a young sort of prodigy type in IndyCar. He's only like 20 or 21, and you're thinking like, how is this kid possibly like this good at driving an IndyCar?
Because they start racing those go-karts at like 8 years old.
And his dad was an IndyCar driver.
Yeah.
So there's pictures of Colton Herta when he was like 2 with like Helio Castroneves, and and Elio was driving at the time,
Spider-Man.
And now they're competing against each other. Yeah, the Spider-Man. So, so I was kind of like that in the sense that I got to grow up around some truly magnificent people and judges in the activity. And so some of that helped, you know the right people, but, you just spend time in it. And then I won the job with the Army in 2013. And so I'm coming up on 10 years now in my job in the Army with the Old Guard Fife and Drum Corps. And I was actually in Indianapolis performing. My group had gone a number of years in a row, and we would go and we would play like outside on the concourse like before the show would start. So we would do like semifinals and finals. So like as people were kind of trickling into the stadium, we would be out front playing music and drum solos and whatever. And we at some point had kind of gotten hooked up with like a box to watch the show. Nice. And one of my colleagues turned to me, and he knew that I had been into judging, and I think it was Lightsky's first year. And obviously I knew Mike from from Rhythm X, and I had told some of my colleagues, like, yeah, he's a buddy of mine, and we marched together, and I judge myself, and one of my colleagues was like, well, why aren't you down there doing that? And I had honestly never really, no one had ever just put it to me like that.
So bluntly.
Yeah, well, why aren't you? And I said, that's a good question. So about 2 weeks later, I sent my stuff in and applied officially. And I had also, that prior spring, had done some shows with, I was judging in Indianapolis. I was doing like state prelims or finals for IPA, and was really lucky to be on that panel of some like real all-star judges, the people I was judging with. I certainly didn't view myself that way. And like Dave Carbone was there. Dave Carbone had given me my first like real teaching gig at Bellbrook in 2005, and he said, hey, Nola Jones was there. Hey, we got to get this Brooks guy into DCI. So it all just kind of happened.
The cards fell into place.
Yeah, exactly. It all just kind of started to happen. They were kind of tracking that I was going to put something in, and then I had that colleague that was like, yo, why aren't you doing it?
So what was your first official year judging with DCI?
So I trialed in 2017 with them, and I had to like buy my own flights. I went to the Atlanta Regional. I judged. I was upstairs doing Percussion 2 at the time, which is now kind of like the music analysis caption.
Not really.
It's yeah.
They do generally put a percussion person in that position, yes.
But that's what the percussion that ended up kind of turning into that in a way.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, I trialed, and I went to as many shows as I could and it was all kind of on my own dime.
That's an investment.
Yeah, and I think they could tell I was real serious about it. So, and it went well. So my first official year was 2018, and I did a handful of shows, and yeah, I guess the rest is history. I've been judging with them ever since, and obviously COVID happened. I was super bummed.
Yeah, I think everyone was.
Yeah. To put it mildly, I was super bummed. Like what an understatement of all of that. But I was supposed to do Atlanta, the Atlanta Regional in 2020.
Oof.
So amongst a bunch of other awesome shows. But yeah, I cannot even imagine what it would be like to lose a summer like that. I mean, I know for me, each one of those summers, good or bad, or for whatever they ended up being, it's like sacred to me.
Yeah.
And the thought of losing one of those summers, I can't even fathom that.
Yeah.
Now that go ahead, Mike.
It had to be brutal for everyone involved, especially I feel for the members, and Evan and I talked about that a lot, even if not on here, just between him and I, like what it would have felt like, oh, you only have a finite amount of time to do this, and there goes a whole year, like a whole season.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, they kind of extended age out stuff, didn't they? Like they
did. They did extend it. So I don't know all the nitty gritty rules. Maybe one of you does, but I do know they extended it. But I still think that there were people that kind of like still lost a summer.
Yeah, I think so too.
For sure.
It's rough.
Just because, I mean, yeah, they extend your age, but if you're like 23, 24, like life happens. Like you've graduated at that point. Like you have like a job. Like just stuff's different. You can't really go back